and Ringy Dingy, who were able to finish ahead of her. So she just makes a lot of sense in here. I think she's facing the softest field she has so far, and she should probably be this 1-2 that she deserves to be.
Maybe it was a kickback. I don't even know if it was the kickback, because I still thought she just felt like she was just kind of lost out there looking around. And you know, even saw Irad Ortiz Jr. look both ways. And you heard the call from the track announcer, John Imbriel, and said she's not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, mid-stretch, finally starts to pick it up and do some running. She should, you would think, pedigree-wise, like a little bit extra ground. She can be forward, too, in the spot. The second dam actually did win 7 furlongs stakes race on synthetic. So I don't think the mile, I think she gets better with more distance. And obviously, she's a massively short price. The one, I guess I wrote my numbers down. I had the 1 second in here. Backstretch Rose, I thought ran a pretty good race last time out, but I think the race obviously goes through the Chad Brown filly.
I do too. I think that Backstretch Rose has been really that progressive type, really improving over her last couple of starts, has really built a solid foundation on the dirt as well as the turf, and she's just a horse that has been consistent. But at the same time, I think that she would have to take that extra step forward to compete with a horse like Catherine Wheel if she does bring her best. And even on debut, Catherine Wheel behind Candide, this is just a horse that makes so much sense. I'm not trying to beat her in any multis that I would start here. I probably wouldn't start them with the short price that she is, but I didn't see a huge reason to make a big case for anybody else.
Real quick on Paradise Lane for Mott, even money favorite, beat last start. Is it maybe a mile more than she wants to do?
It's possible. I mean, I just also don't know that she was facing the best field last time in that off-the-turf race as well. And I think that if you go back to her debut, you could have made kind of an excuse for, oh, it's her first start, facing Life Talk as well as Backstretch Rose. She did take a step forward in terms of her numbers, going further, or going the mile last time in that off-the-turf race. But I don't know how good she is, and I didn't want her as a shorter priced alternative.
Race 2 starts the pick four. It's the only race that comes off the turf today. So $32,000 claiming race, 6 furlong sprint. And to me, maybe outside of what we're going to see pace stool in the Breeders' Cup Classic, so fascinated between Arabian Night and Saudi Crown. I'm excited about this pace stool in this race. Print Track, Poppy's Pride, the 9 and the 10, 2 main track only. Who's going to get to the front between these two? And I thought maybe with the presence of those two trying to duel each other, it sets up for a horse to come from off it.
I thought so too. I know that often we think that, and then it's not exactly what we see here with horses coming from off the pace, having that opportunity and pace really developing and playing out like we think it will, at least on paper. But from the outside, Print Track and Poppy's Pride, they both have to be forward in here. If they're not, I don't understand what the point is. You know, Kendrick will go. Jose Gomez, some brilliant rides yesterday, some very smart, patient rides. I think that he knows that he has to be forward with this horse, with Print Track. So you and I both turned to King James, who's getting some class relief as well, and his run just as good on dirt as he has on turf. Does have that win last time on the grass, but his numbers on dirt are not so far behind.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought there was a lot to like. I thought he was the most logical of the closers in this spot. You know, you look at Bronx Bomber a little bit in here. I'm not enamored with his ability to finish a race, even if he gets a hot pace against this group. So, yeah, I thought King James the way to go. But there's always the possibility one of these speed horses just does get loose.
Sure.
I don't know who's the quicker of the two. I tend to think it's Poppy's Pride, even though he's drawn outside of Print Rack in here. And if he gets loose and goes, maybe he can win. But, yeah, I thought it set up perfectly for the two here.
I agree. And I wish that Handsome Cat had been facing better company like this, because he is going to get a pretty favorable setup. At least you would think it here. He does like to come from off the pace. I don't know that he's quite good enough. That's why I opted for King James on top. But I think that he might be one that I want to throw in the mix underneath somewhere, because I do think the dynamics would really favor him.
Stakes race coming up early in the card in race 3. It is the Turn Back the Alarm at 1 1/8, just a compact field of 5, but another really intriguing race. You have Bellamore, who's coming into this race in pretty good form against horse is probably going to be the favorite in the Distaff and Idiomatic. She actually put in a move against that one off a fairly long layoff and then flattened out. Tizzy in the Sky seems like she's emerging for Pletcher, but Interstate Daydream, no question, is the one to beat.
She is. The problem that I have with her a little bit is just that she's a horse that might be a little bit pace dependent, or at least will be against it in terms of dynamics in this race. And we could take a look at her winning the Twixt last time out at Laurel, and she was so far back in this race and just had so much work to do. But she was such a short price, and this field, I think, even though this is a more compact field today, she might be facing a better field today. You can't deny that this was an impressive effort, but I just wonder if she's going to get, with a short field, this kind of setup.
Yeah, and it says too awkward break in here. I didn't think it was that bad of a break, but she was.
She was far back, but I don't think she broke that badly.
I don't think she broke bad at all, really. Yeah. And the fact that I don't know what happened. She used to be forward. She used to be in graded stakes races, not on the lead, but at least right off the pace. There's been races where she's been in front. I don't know what has happened to that pace from her, but she's just so much better than this group in this spot. I still think she's able to overcome it. And obviously, she's very good at a mile and an eighth. She's already proven. And I trust Trevor McCarthy, too, to get a good trip from her. I just think she shows up every single time and she overcomes what's thrown in her way against this group. Even though it's a better group, it might be than that Twixt, not good enough against her.
Okay, that's fair enough. I thought that I wanted to go in a slightly different direction. I respect her. I don't have a big problem with her, but just in terms of her losing that kind of early forward position that she used to have, and also just the kind of race that she ran last time, I don't trust the company she was keeping, and I think that you have some horses that are kind of perhaps emerging that I wanted to give Bellamore another chance, who I thought ran pretty well in the Grade 1 Spinster last time out to finish third. That was a race that was completely controlled on the front end by Idiomatic, who, as you mentioned, we're going to see go into that Breeders' Cup Distaff as one of the favorites, if not the favorite. And Idiomatic had everything go her own way in that race. Bellamore is going to eventually finish third behind Leda Vita, who I thought made a really good run into a pretty paceless race in there. But I thought that with the company that she had kept in the past, I mean, even before that, running in graded stakes against Pauline's Pearl, she's just faced better horses, and I don't think she's going to be so far back that she couldn't be a factor.
Yeah, and then you got to throw Tizzy into the Sky into the mix, too. I mean, she broke so incredibly sharp in that race last time out.
Right?
She's absolutely going to be in front. She has sprint speed in here. It's Kendrick for Pletcher, and she just opened up on a group at a mile and an eighth. So if she's alone in front, it doesn't seem like she wants to stop, at least last time out when she just dusted that group. I know it all. Audrey came out of that race to win the Empire Distaff as well.
Right.
She's kind of emerging, just getting, seems like a lot better now later into her 4-year-old campaign.
I agree.
It's going to be interesting to see what she can do against this group.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a fun race. I think that's between the top 1, 2, 3. But I mean, even Fireline has been facing better horses. Morning Matcha's not impossible. This is a compact group, but I don't know. I could make a case for pretty much anybody outside the favorite, though I do respect her.
All right, let's get to the fourth. 6 furlongs, 25,000 non-winners of 2 condition. In this race, it does start a middle pick 4. This is a tough race where you can feel comfortable with anyone here. I think I had more trouble with this race than any race on the card today.
Yeah, I don't like anybody. This is a tough group. I think that you have a lot of horses making some changes that I don't really know how to assess where they all fit class-wise, but I wanted to look at Now Showing and Will Be Famous, because when you have horses at a level like this, if there's anything, and you can see her being studied there very quickly, the number 2 Now Showing in this race, when there's anything that goes wrong in a race like this, these horses have more of a right to give up, to backtrack, to not really want to restart their rally and be a part of things. And so she had to steady pretty significantly towards the inside of there, just seemed kind of uncomfortable inside of horses. You can see looking for somewhere to be, and then ultimately just does not have anything left at the top of the stretch in this race. And I think that she's a better turf horse. I don't really know
I agree with that.
if she's that good, but she is getting some class relief in here, and I can make enough of, not an excuse, but at least an inconvenience for her last time, that I think I wanted to give her another shot to perhaps be a little bit more forward towards the outside of horses and not have to start and stop like that.
Yeah, at least, in races like this, lower level 2, finding any kind of excuses,
Something.
it's what she's trying to do. I went with the other horse in that race, Will Be Famous, who was on turf last time. But that race that you're looking at, she was 4 wide a lot of the way through that race. Actually got one of the better figures than anyone in here has ever run. And if you go back a few starts, and I know she was on the lead that day, but a race, and she's done it before, a number that blitzes this field. So it's in her. She has that ability to do that. It's just no consistency from really anybody, and there's primarily all 3-year-old fillies in this group. I do like the fact, too, that in that last start, at least she fought, and even though she wasn't going to win that race, she outfought the other horse who was battling with her to get 3rd place money and showed a little bit of grit. And I like the fact, too, don't know how she did it, obviously. Could have been all out to get it, but I like the fact you see that Bullet Joe coming in at 47, quickest of 34 in the morning leading up to this.
Yeah, I want those 2, and then I also wanted to consider Best Coast, who They tried the turf
Yeah.
last time. She ran fine. I don't know if she's good enough. It's her first start against winners. She has yet to win on the dirt, but she was against the way the track was playing in her previous dirt start. She was a horse that was wide. The rail was the place to be that day. I don't know that she necessarily can be competitive against a group like this, but you're taking a horse that has some upside, has a legitimate excuse off the layoff, first time back on the dirt. They dropped to get the win a little bit on the turf, and you know that she at least has that speed if she could be forwardly placed in a 5-furlong turf sprint.
Yeah, we both have her second. I think you got to use that one as well. That's a tough race to trust in this early sequence. If you're playing this early pick 5 or early pick 4. Pick 6 carryover starts with the 5th, and it's a New York bred first allowance condition 6.5 furlong sprint. 37,682 in the pick 6 carryover for this Friday card. And let's see, you go to the 5 in the spot. Dashing Della, what'd you like here?
I have to give her one more chance. This is a horse that I really liked quite a bit last time because she can be forwardly placed. She has that speed, and that was such a good rail day back on October 19th, and she was wide. She had no opportunity to really be on the good part of the racetrack. Carbon was your winner that day, a horse that was stretching out and had that inside post position. And I just felt as though she was one that now cutting back in distance could perhaps sit just a little bit off the pace. She's run okay sprinting. If you go way, way, way back, she was just starting out her career and really did take a step forward when stretching out. But I think that now she's a better horse and perhaps could benefit from a little bit less distance as well as just a fair racetrack. Of course, you never know what you're going to get until the races start, but she's really been against how the track has been playing over her last 2, really.
All right, I went to Reigning Chick here towards the outside. I see you have her 4th in this spot. Peter Walter, very sharp trainer, and she comes in. She hasn't raced since July 27th, but if you look back at her past performances, just about every single, when she gets 3 months rest, and usually it's with races in between. This time it's going to be without, but it looks like she's working very sharp with a bullet drill too, coming into the spot since that time. But again, it's the same deal. 3 months, she's prime and runs her best race of her career. She did it when she won for non-winners of 3 back in January at Aqueduct. She ran an 8 on Thorograph. Then about 3 months later, she wins for 25. She runs an 8 again, and then she just did that. It was a low-level voided claim race for 16,000, so that made me question her a little bit because now is she up to this level? And I think there's some excuses where she struggled against a state A other than before. But again, coming in, working sharp, getting that 3 months again, it looks like that's a form cycle that's really positive for her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody's a little bit tough to trust in here, and you know that she at least faced some pretty decent horses in her starter allowance company, or allowance company versus state breds prior to that. So I think that maybe with that confidence boost, dropping her, the voided claims, always a little bit of a red flag, but I think that you'll get a fair enough price on her. We did see Maggie T scratch out, so that will affect everybody, but she made some sense in here. I ended up going with her 4th. Big Bean Christine is going to take quite a bit of money in this race, and we can take a look at her last race, and I know that says the rider lost the crop. I don't think that really made much of a difference in the very late stages of this race, and she's okay, but I just don't really fully trust her. Do you?
I think she's reliable in the sense you're going to get what she can give you, which is, I don't think, that great of a race. It's a slow race that doesn't even make her the favorite or one of the top 2 choices in this race, and she's 3-1 on the morning line. I think other fillies in this group have races that are much better than her.
And
so
against tougher
I think
horses,
she will show
no?
up. Yeah, she'll probably be in the mix, but yeah, no way at that price.
Yeah, that was my kind of thinking with her too. I just think there's a lot else going on outside of her. I know I picked her 2nd, but I think that you can make a case for some of the other horses outside of this one that, sure, she could hit the board, but she's not a horse that I wanted to pick on top.
So Lieb, to me, is one I think that's moving forward. I like the fact she can be tactical in this spot, and kind of got back on dirt by accident, a race taken off the turf because she'd primarily been on grass, and now she's paired up 2 figures that are much quicker than Big Bean Christine in her last 2 starts. So that's a move where it looks like she's primed to move forward, take another big step, and if she can. So Lieb, she's 8-1 morning line. I don't think you're going to get that, but she, to me, is one of the major players in this race.
I think it's just because you're seeing a change of connections, you know? Going from Mike Maker to Linda Dixon, and so sometimes bettors might be a little bit cold on that, but running right back, and I thought ran pretty well last time.
Pause, come back for the late pick 5?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
We are back. Thank you to Saratoga Water, our sponsor for the program. It is my favorite water on the planet. Not just because they're a sponsor, I'm saying that. I knew that before they even were our sponsor. It is the best in the world. Late pick 5, carryover, big one after what happened yesterday. 147,582 in this late pick 5 that begins in race 6. Make sure you take part in the festivities. Begins with a New York bred maiden special weight, mile and a 16th on the turf to kick things off. And 12-7 for me, 7-12 for you. Let's start. We're take a look at Instamatic in here. This is a race that we're going to show. 2 sprints now stretching out. Danny Gargan was so high on his 2-year-olds. He felt like he had more ammo than he'd ever have coming into a Saratoga meet. It's just so tough to win up there. And this was one of the horses I know he was so highly regarding coming into the meet. You see this horse rushing up in there and getting into a battle pretty much throughout, going this 5.5. I love the 2 sprint stretch out angle. And the fact that this horse is drawn outside, I think, has a tactical ability, as you see from this sprint here and the speed this horse showed, where being drawn outside is not going to be a huge problem.
He's talented, and he's overcome some things, especially in this start. This was a very game effort, but he needs to get out of the gate. He's been favored twice in both of his starts and had a little bit trouble in the beginning of his races on both occasions, and now he's all the way out. And I know we had a couple of scratches, but he's still going to be breaking from post 11 in this race, and I just didn't particularly want him at a very short price because I don't trust him yet to show me that he can get himself involved in the races. And now I know stretching out he won't have to quite as much so quickly, but at the same time I wanted a horse that I thought ran pretty well versus Open Company 2 starts ago, actually defeated him on debut when he was facing state breds, and then had that foundational race going a mile on the dirt last time. They did keep him in. Now he's returning to a surface that he's shown that he can run well on. He's already had a race going a little bit further on the wrong surface, and he's faced Open Company. That Irish Ghent, who finished 3rd in that race, came back and ran a pretty good effort and really improved, going from a 56 to a 76 Beyer in that start that he ran in against Apollo 10. So I'd prefer hard par on top just because of the post positions. I think you can make some excuses for the types of races that he's been in, as well as the wrong surface last time out. And I trust him a little bit more to get a better trip in this spot.
Okay, I have him in here second. Dan was a 6-time winner on the turf. She was great in stakes plays. I'm not concerned with Instamatic, even if he doesn't break good. He's just too quick for this group. 21 and change, 44 and change. He's part of that pace going 5.5. Even if he does break slow, Kendrick Carmouche, he's going to work it out against this group, I think, on the grass. It's not going to be an issue. So we'll see. 2 sprints stretching out. I think he gets a fine trip in here. It starts this late pick 5. Anyone else you wanted to bring up in here?
I mean, Frozen 4 kind of seems like another horse that could be okay and charging fast. They both took some money. I respect that in terms of what they've done so far, but I think it really does go through these 2 to get things started. And some might gravitate towards the Paddock Pastor, but get Stormies. They don't really win on debut as much, so I wanted to avoid that one and mainly focus on hard par and Instamatic.
All right, let's go to race 7 here. Start of the late pick 4. 20 claiming sprint, 6.5 furlongs in this spot. Big engine. It's going to take a ton of support in this spot. It's an 11-time winner, almost 600,000 in earnings. You have him second. I put him on top just because he's been facing so much better horses than anybody in this group. So many horses coming up against, it's lower level claiming races. Now, it's a big drop for him.
It is, and he just makes a lot of sense. He's a horse that I agree. He's been facing tougher company, Mariachi, Z-Bear. I know these are state breds, but these are good New York bred horses. And even in the start before that, Ocean's Reserve, Fusky Island, when he was the serious triple Beyer speed figure kind of horse, he has just been in against such tough company. But At the same time, I kind of wonder now, they claimed him originally for $45,000 and now they're dropping him for $20,000. And the Maker Barn, they're very astute with their claims. If one doesn't work out, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, this is a pretty aggressive drop for a horse that is now an 8-year-old gelding and will need at least a little bit of something to develop in front of him. And I don't see a ton of pace going on in this race, and I don't trust who Timeform US projects to be in front, and that's Bourbon Hope. Bourbon's Hope towards the outside. So I respect him. I picked him second, but I wanted a horse that I thought maybe could be perhaps a little bit more forward, had a little bit more interesting recent form, and I thought facing some tougher horses at Monmouth, not quite as tough as the New York breds that Big Engine was facing, but just had been keeping good company over there. So I went to Poggi for the Falcone Barn. He had a bit of a bobbling break and kind of missed the start last time and then was pretty wide when rallying to finish second in a sprint race last time. He was also going further than I think he really wanted to in his last start. So I like him cutting back in distance and facing a level like this.
We're going to show Air Show in this spot, and we both have him in the mix somewhere. I actually have him runner-up in second in here. He ran for 20 at 6.5 last time out. It's Rudy Rodriguez, and there's the 2 horse in here. We pick it up coming out of the turn into the stretch. Again, to me, and I was interested by Poggi a little bit as well. I have him fourth in the spot. I just think Big Engine had a big excuse for his last start when he didn't break that well, and he still got races when he was claimed 3 back. Even that next start, that's much too good against this group. But this horse at least showed ability. He woke up a little bit in one of the bigger races that he ran, and it's not like he's taking some massive jump up and they're being unrealistic with him.
Right, I think he's the one that you want at this level, right? I mean, he's the horse that just fits, even with those class droppers. Maybe if you have questions about them, you trust him a little bit more against this level of competition.
All right, let's move on to the 8th, mile and a 16th, outer turf. By the way, outer turf, I believe the outer is listed as good. The inner is listed as firm today. This race, even though it stays on the grass, we have a lot of scratches in this spot. A huge one with Mia Mr. C coming out. With those who are left, let's take a look at public sector for Chad Brown here. Part of an entry. He's got unanimous consent from the outside as well. And this horse third, Bernard Baruch, in that beat to Pioneering Spirit. Not a great beginning for him, as you see a little bit of a stumble in this race. And then we'll pick it up in the stretch from him. This was the first start for him in a bit where he had some rest. And he's got figures where he's obviously a major player in this spot. With everybody who came out in this race, to me, it just feels like now it goes through Chad Brown.
Yeah, I was trying to beat this entry before we had the scratches of me and Mr. C, Ken Vega, and Duke of Hazzard. But now, when you look at who's left in this race, he's very difficult to ignore because the level of company that he's been keeping, just a steady diet of serious stakes races or even graded stakes races throughout his career. He was coming off a bit of a freshening last time. He's run numbers that just make him a better horse in all likelihood than a lot of who he's going to be facing today. So he's the one that I think they will certainly be betting more so than Unanimous Consent, who is a little bit more lightly raced. And my big opinion here was try to beat them. That's not how I stand now because there's just nobody really left other than Call Me Harry.
Now, he's my third choice, actually, public sector. Now I back into him as the horse to beat in here, but at least he'll get pace set up. I mean, it looks like Main Event. It looks like Call Me Harry, maybe even Safe Conduct. They all are horses that want to be somewhat forward in this spot. Call Me Harry finally gets away from Duke of Hazzard, who he hasn't been able to beat the last 2 starts. Maybe that'll be the difference for him.
And he's a horse that I think he might be the speed of the speed in this race. And I think that Safe Conduct, while we haven't seen him bring his better performances in a while, he's one that he likes to get that soft, comfortable trip, controlling things on the front end through very moderate fractions, whereas Call Me Harry is a horse that can actually run some reasonable early fractions and still be around at the end instead of completely walking the dog on the front and getting away with some very soft fractions. I think that he can have more legitimate pace than some of his other rivals in here, and he's been very game in his last 2 efforts to still hit the board. The problem is that now you're not going to get a very good price.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's getting away from horses that have been able to beat him. So now he's the speed and the likely second choice.
Dutrow, Lescano, and Lescano, he knows when to take advantage if he has the one to be. This horse has not been far off some pretty hot turf sprint pace scenarios as well. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he's the one who's in front. Discovery's a really interesting race. We're not going to see Drake's Passage and Winner's Lion in a rematch, but we are going to see Krupi come back, who I got to imagine
Poor
is a little
Croupi.
bit of a, what's that?
Poor Croupi.
I got to imagine it's a little bit of a frustrating horse for Todd Pletcher because it seems like he has really big talent, has not been able really to put things together. And then this is Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby, breaks slow out of the gate, drops back to last. And then he has legitimate trouble as he starts to put in a pretty big run, actually, the stretch here against Saudi Crown.
He does, and this is really one of his better races where you have these serious excuses for him. He doesn't break, he's at the back of the pack, your winner of this race is pretty good, and he went gate to wire in here. And when you take a look at the
Won't get
race,
the stretch, but
well,
he did get shut off.
no, they can go take a look. But at the same time, when you have him making that run, he has nowhere to go. And so he kind of has to alter course and end up shifting back. And he was making up some serious ground in that race. So I take him seriously in here. I just think that he's not going to get the same kind of pace that he did in that Pennsylvania Derby because Saudi Crown, while he is legitimate speed and he was able to control on the front end and not drop back, he is still fast early.
There's no Saudi Crowns in here?
No.
Oh.
On today's card, tomorrow's card.
What'd
next
you like
card.
with Army Times? That was a huge number he got at Monmouth, two back.
I just think he's going to be in front. I mean, I think that you're dealing with a situation where he might not be the better horse, but he is going to be the horse that Croupi has to come and catch. And I don't really see that he's going to take a ton of pace pressure early in this race. He has to go from the rail. He's been able to control races in the past, going a little bit further. His race two back makes him very impressive. He had some other horses that I think were better in the Smarty Jones that he was facing last time. And to me, his only serious rival in here is Croupi. So with that advantage that he should have on the front end, I'd rather take him.
To me, too, I think Croupi is finally starting to put it together, and maybe he's one of these kind of projects for Todd Pletcher that's taken a little bit longer to get it going, and Curlins can get better as they get older, and he's not going to have to try and run down as sharp a horse as Saudi Crown, which I like in this spot. I think that's actually a benefit to him in this spot. Army Times is obviously no Saudi Crown. We'll see. I have him second in here. That was a really impressive race, though, at Monmouth. We closed it out, State Bred Maiden Special, mile and 16th over the inner turf in this finale. Fairly tough race to try and close things out if you're still alive to this point in either the pick six or the late pick five.
Yeah, this is a race where you have a lot of horses coming out of a similar race, but I don't know how great that race was. I know BD Saints was able to absolutely romp in there.
We're going to show that race too.
But everybody that finished behind him, I don't really know how good they are. And so that's what kind of led me in the direction of a first-time starter. But Easy Roll.
Yeah, here's Easy Roll. This would be, BD Saints just ran off against this group. Easy Roll's the 7-horse in this spot, who was wide a little bit around both turns, so you can give him some credit for that. This is his first time getting on turf. The first two tries on dirt, he did not show a lot. At least he woke up and showed a little more ability, and he does beat the rest of this group. Say that for him with, see how far the rail's out too,
right,
with a wide going. So credit him for that a little bit. But I'm with you. I didn't love anybody coming out of that race, which many are.
And what a cluster behind Easy Roll of a lot of competitors that we're going to see again. So I didn't really want to gravitate in that direction. And English Castle, I mean, Christophe Clement just does so well with first-time starters in these state-bred races, especially on the grass. And this one has some serious pedigree. The dam, Seacoast, is a 4-time winner. She finished second, earned over $200,000 over her 23 starts, many of them in graded stakes company. He's a half to swashbuckle who was able to break his maiden on debut and a pretty consistent turf and synthetic runner. So I thought that this one was the one that I wanted the most out of horses that were not coming out of that race.
All right, I wound up going with the 5 in here. I love anytime Jose Lezcano's on any horse on the grass, but this horse has some pedigree too, and they tried to get this 2-year-old on the grass last time out, and it was washed off. He wound up running second at a mile on that sloppy sealed surface. First foal from this dam, but the second dam was actually 7 for 11 on the turf and was a multiple graded stakes winner going down the hill. That was Belsky. So there's pedigree with Albedo. You're going to get a price. I get Lezcano as well in the mix. And again, all those that have run, I didn't feel like anyone kind of stood out and separated themselves.
I agree. I think this is a spot to look for somebody that's doing something new or making their first start.
Good luck to everyone. Carryover pick 6, big carryover late pick 5. That begins in race 6 today, over $147,000 in that late pick 5 that nobody could solve yesterday with those fireworks to end it. And enjoy Future Stars Friday, Championship Saturday. Our coverage again begins at 12 Eastern start time on FS2. Don't forget to get signed up started with Naira Bets. $25 free play plus that $200 sign-up bonus. Got to punch in Cup 25 at sign-up to take advantage of that on the app or at NairaBets.com. The Pick 6 carryover begins today in race 5. $37,682 in this Pick 6 sequence, and it gets even bigger in the Pick 5. $147,582 beginning in races 6 through the 10th. Middle Pick 4 begins in the 4th race this afternoon. We also have a $40 bonus. Bet $200 each at Aqueduct and Breeders' Cup Future Stars Friday, and opt in, and you'll get that $40 in your account whether you win or lose. And then Sarah and I are going to see you in less than 20 minutes on the air on our FS2 coverage. We look forward to it. Enjoy your Friday. Good luck today, and we'll see you in a bit.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.